Hello, cyber warriors and digital defenders. Welcome to the ultimate cyber shots by CSA Bangalore chapter, where we take a deep dive into the world of ransomware. Hey, before we geek out these technical stuff, let's loosen up a bit. Here is a fun fact about me. I am so obsessed with these movies. My family swears that I could win a Coach Potato of the Year award. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Now, how about we turn this into a little game? Picture this. You are starring in a high octane cybersecurity black blockbuster. What's your role? Are you the code cracking superhero or the sneaky hacker pulling off digital heist? Or maybe the tech mastermind who saves the day from behind the screen. Think about this. I request guests on this section to introduce themselves with a fun twist and tell us which movie character you would be in your digital adventure. Let's see which of you are ready to take on the ransomware villains with style. So let me introduce myself. This is Satyavati Devadari, founder and president, CSA Bangalore. My favorite character, Gandalf from, you know, all the Rings of Power and Rings. I think Rings of Power is going on in Netflix, so I like the character Gandalf. Over to you. Over to my co-host Ananja, who is a cybersecurity mentor and my good friend from CSA Bangalore chapter. And we also have two of our eminent guests, Divakar and Haranjit. With that said, I introduce Anand to you, and I request Anand to take over from me and move on.
Thank you, Satya. Hello and welcome back to the second episode of Cyber Shots. I'm your host, Anand Kumar Jha, and I'm very thrilled to have you on this exciting journey again. In the previous episode, we learned about the basics of ransomware, threats to various business domains by ransomware, and the advancements in its size due to technology evolution. In today's podcast, we'll be exploring this ransomware technically and in detail. On behalf of CSA Bangalore chapter, I'd also like to extend our warm greetings to each of you for sharing your availability and for this community awareness initiative. So, welcome Divakar and Harinderjeet for taking out your valuable time for this podcast and would love to hear your insights on this hot topic that is ransomware. Let me introduce my guests as well. So today we are having Harinderjit Singh Walia, who is an Indian Air Force veteran and cybersecurity evangelist, as well as we are having Divakar Prayaga, who is the cyber security leader and board mentor for NASCOM as well as T-Hub. So welcome again, Divakar. Having said that, let me share you the outline of today's podcast. So we have segregated our questions into two different sections. And the post that we are having a rapid fire round for each of you, where you can dodge any bullets and you'll have to share the mysteries. All right. So good to go.
Yeah, sure.
All right, great. So without any further delay, let's get started with our first category, that is identify, detect, and respond. All right. So the first question is to you, Harinderjeet. What are the various types of ransomware existing in our digital ecosystem? Based on your experience, could you please brief about two such most devastating ransomwares?
Sure, Anand. Before that, just on a lighter note, as Satyavati said, right? I am also a big movie fan, and I like myself to the character of Iron Man, wherein he is a geek and tries to solve the puzzles and create more tech stuff. So I like the character very much. Yeah. And coming back to the serious question that you put in front of me, so basically there are multiple types of category of ransomware nowadays, depending on which channel they are affecting. But if you ask me frankly, I will segregate it maximum three. First one is the crypto ransomware, whereas it affects the file system of a particular wherever it attacks, let it be a system, let it be anywhere. So basically, it targets the file and encrypts the file so that whenever you want to access that file, you have to pay the ransom, right? So that is one of the devastating ransomware type. The second type is the locker ransomware, wherein it locks your system completely. So if, other than the file, you are not able to access the system itself. So whenever you try to log in a system, you will just get the ransom screen. Okay. The third one and the most ferocious one is ransomware as a service. Okay, which is rampant nowadays in the uh, underground sites and the dark sites. Basically, anyone without any technical knowledge can hire them and start try to launch a ransomware attack against a particular organization, nation, you call it any critical infrastructure, and it is most devastating. Further, it can be categorized as per the intention of the attacker, right? When you talk about these kind of groups.
Exactly.
One most important group is Rebel, which is now very famous for attacking multiple systems. And yeah, the second part of the question is most devastating attacks. As per me, the WannaCry attack, which launched in 2017, is one of the most devastating attack because it leveraged one of the zero-day exploits at that particular time, which we can't call it zero day because Microsoft identified it and released the patch. But the ransomware immediately created an attack on that, and it used the eternal blue vulnerability of Microsoft.
Right.
Uh, and the attack happened in 2017, which affected most of the and many of the Microsoft systems those time, and there were a mass issue, right? Due to that,
Agree.
multiple sectors, multiple critical infrastructures got affected through it. One of the biggest ransomware attack till date. The second one, I would like to go with the Kasya attack, which happened in 2021. Uh, the difference between this attack is here the ransomware group uh, was Revil, right?
Mm.
Ransomware as a service, and they attacked the MSP. What is MSP? Basically, these are companies which uh, take care of the IT of the other companies, right? Patching and everything. So
The
what
managed
happened
service
in
providers.
yeah, MSPs, right? Managed service providers. And what happened here is basically they attack the MSPs. When the MSPs got compromised, then they attack the VSA servers. Okay, which is basically the server, the jump server through which you connect to your MSPs connect to
Right. Right.
their customers, and through that server they launch the attacks to the customers of the MSPs, right? Which is more devastating, right? So
Right.
it can be considered as a what you can call the compromise of one of the third party MSP
Right.
resulted in the attack which was done to the organizations. Okay,
Right.
and this particular MSPs are hired for defending against any attack, right? To cover the vulnerabilities and stuff. That is why this is a very interesting attack, and I would like to highlight this particular attack here, right?
So
Definitely. I
actually
believe.
speaking, this is
Yep.
the ransomware mafia, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely,
I don't think we should call it as MSP, etc., which is classy words. Practically, it is mafia and running its own corridors of groups and local groups, etc. Anyway, but
Correct. Correct.
they are also very sophisticated, much sophisticated than all of us. I am okay to call them MSPs. Fine.
Right, right. And in fact, a classic example of supply chain attack, right? This is how, you are actually hiring third-party contractors to work for you. But if you don't have, controls in build over there, this is how it is going to actually spill the beans, and end of the day, you are under breach. So, no, that's a
absolutely,
great
absolutely.
insight. That's a
The
great
one thing
insight.
is, what I wanted to mention here is, even though you try to set your or transfer your responsibility to third parties to managing your IT, you
Correct.
cannot overlook it because ultimately it's your responsibility. Once your company gets affected, you are there to feel the burn.
Completely agree. Completely agree. All right. So with this, I move on to the second question, and this is a two-in-one question, Devakar. So the question to you is: what are the top trending tricks an attacker uses to infiltrate? And that is the first part. And second part: what are the most effective ways to detect a ransomware? If
Mhm.
you could share a few recommended approaches.
Sure, Anand. First of all, thanks a lot for having me on today's podcast. And as Satya asked, if I have to relate myself to a movie character, I'm a big time movie buff. Grew up watching a lot of English movies and couldn't go beyond James Bond. At one of the organizations I've worked, it's just a coincidence that they gave me a 007 ID, and that was visible across my email ID and aliases, and people recognize me that way. So that's a fond
Great.
memory I have with the movie and also the coincidence that I had at one of the organizations. And I think coming to the ransomware, when it comes to the trending tricks, identifying, I'll combine both and
Hmm.
reflect on
Hmm.
those. I can't think of anything beyond phishing. That's the primary threat vector using which most of the perpetrators, adversaries would sneak in or gain access into the kingdom. And thereon, I think it's much easier to gain access to multiple systems, horizontally penetrating across. And if at all you ask me, what are some of the recommendations that could be in terms of identifying a ransomware? I think anything that
Hmm.
middles with
Correct.
the registry keys, the system files, DLLs, or some of the key configuration elements are primary indicators. And some of the proactive tools, mechanisms that you could deploy are all the way starting from antivirus to XDR systems, mostly which are routed towards identifying the kernel level application changes, file system changes, etc. And anything that is altering key configurations is a key indicator. And that's how the ransomware will trigger. And most of the earlier days, if I reflect on some of the incidents that I have worked on, it was more to do with infecting a system, infecting a endpoint. Rather, these days we are seeing a no-click kind of applications. You need not even click on something for it to start the infiltration or infection. The sophistication is increasing day by day, and it's ever changing the environment. Day by day, there are more complexities added. The adversary is also getting very smart. That's where I think cyber incident responders, gone are the days of reactively responding to these incidents, and proactively, how could we identify something in the making? How could we understand the infections? What are some of the areas that incident responder has to focus has been a great shift. That's
So,
what I've
as
observed in the
usual, I
last
have to
five to
add
seven
my fun
years in
fact,
the
right?
industry.
So, how many of you have seen Harry Potter series? All
Yeah,
of you, right?
yeah,
Please.
So, Voldemort actually keeps his actually soul in divided into eight pieces, and actually safely keeps it in knife and cup and then a chain. Who will actually wonder a demon is actually living in a chain
Right.
you regularly wear? So this is what is ransomware in my mind. I know it's not connected, but what I'm trying to say is the demons or the viruses could be living anywhere and everywhere, whether it is kernel or images, whatever. So I mean, you need a super magic wand like the Harry Potter did, and a lot of friends who help to get that happen. I think the collaboration among us, learning these new technologies and things like that to address these advanced threats, so
Correct.
that we can find those, the wonderful knife where Voldemort is living, right? And
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yes.
living in. So that's something I think we need to figure out.
Right.
The advanced threats keep increasing day by day. Thanks for
Right.
that insight, Divakar. Over to you,
Yeah.
Anand.
No, no, definitely. I mean, I completely agree. And if I just, share the thoughts which was shared by Harinder as well as Divakar, I still feel, with the evolution in the technology, the blast radius of this ransomware is increasing. Previously, only, the organizations were under attack. Now, with RAS coming into picture, like that is ransomware as a service, you are having apps on Google Store these days. So you are getting that type of, and very in many of the scenarios, very people are still playing, games over there on mobiles. And in most of the cases you might see that there are ads that comes up. If you accidentally click that particular ad, that will automatically start installing that particular app in a device and you are under breach. So that is something which is actually people should understand, that ransomware is not only a topic for the organization these days anymore, it's for each and every individual. They are under soup. So they need to understand what type of apps they are installing in their app, in their mobile, as well as they should be very careful while browsing websites, visiting to any website, whether they are malicious or whether that they are really good to go. So they need to very very much clear on that particular view if they are doing any type of surfings over there on web, or they're utilizing Google Store while downloading any app. So that's what I can understand. Devakar, your thought was pretty much great on that particular area and very insightful. People should learn actually from this particular area how they can be proactive in these measures. All right. So moving to the third questions of this particular section, and this is for you, Harinder. So, in your experience, what is the standard or recommendation, or the recommended response approach if there is a ransomware breach?
Yeah, very interesting question. The first thing that we should look into is when you talk about ransomware, you have to be proactive, right? It can't
Right.
happen that now ransomware has affected your organization and now you are thinking how to counter it and deploy all the tools in your arsenal. No,
Correct.
that will not work. So proactive approach is the best approach. So before any ransomware attacks, you have to have a proper BCPDR plan. You should have an incident response plan already worked out for such scenarios, right? And then once you have this kind of attack, you have to immediately invoke your incident response plan. Okay,
Correct.
first first thing that you should do is contain the attack, and that can be only possible once you have such setup, right, already in your organization which can contain the attack. And the second thing that I should point out here, even though there can be mixed opinions about it, is try to have a negotiation done with the ransomware actor. I'm not telling you to pay the ransomware, but start the process of negotiation so
Correct.
that you get more insights till which depth in your organization
Yes.
the particular ransomware has affected. Please understand,
Agree.
ransomware attack is not a standalone attack.
Agree.
It is actually the last step of an sophisticated attack, right?
Mm,
The initial step is already done. They have already infiltrated your systems, your organization, taken out the data, right?
right.
Okay, which they will separately ask ransom. Okay, that's a separate thing. Once they have utilized your network for attacking or different other stuff, right? Critical infrastructure, and you are no more of use, then only they will come up with the ransomware demand. Okay, that is, see, I am doing everything in a shadow, and then at the end when I feel that there is no need of you, I will come open and tell you give me some money. So that's the last step, right? you
Right.
cannot you cannot think ransomware is a silo attack wherein it's only limited to ransomware. No, they have already infiltrated your system. They have uh, gone beyond your security mechanism. They have taken out the data. They have spread everywhere in your organization. At the last step, they will do the ransomware attack and ask you for a ransom, right? So to understand till which depth they have infiltrated, it is better to start a negotiation asking for proofs from them, right? So maybe you will get more file or something which will tell you till which depth they have infiltrated, and then you can take the measure of containment, right? Where till where you have to contain your systems, right? And then once the containment is done, then obviously you have to go through the BCPDR process of again getting your data back without paying the ransom. That depends on what kind of backup you are having
Right.
already, right? So it's a uh, proactive nature of that you have to work out, right? For ransomware
Correct.
attacks, you have to have a proper backup, and those backups, whenever you are taking a backup or you have a backup, that has to be done as a sanitization check as well. Maybe that backup itself is again having a component of ransomware, after restoring which again you will be infected, right? So
Correct.
that
Correct.
sanitization part is very very important about the backup. And the third thing is, never connect. Okay, never connect your backup systems directly with the ransomware affected systems, because in that case, even though you think you have contained the ransomware, you may have taken out the malicious files, but you never know, there may be an element which again encrypts your backup also. Then where will you go, right?
Agree.
So that is there. And also one more thing, there are multiple sites nowadays where you get tools for reversing the ransomware,
Agree.
decrypting the files. Never run those tools on a live system which is affected, because that may tamper or um, uh, means the file can be corrupted enough so that they never get decrypted.
Correct.
So
Correct.
take some sample files and try to decrypt it. If it decrypts properly, then use the other files, but don't run it directly on the ransomware affected systems. That is my suggestion.
Great. Anything that you
So
would like to add,
some
Satya?
no some fun element again. I think as Anand, you like Iron Man. You remember the Iron Man suit gets
Exactly.
blown up, and then
Right.
he's like into pieces, and he doesn't have anything, any shield to protect him. So he has
Right.
to pick up again from the shreds of where he started and build it again. So this is the same
Right.
thing happens for ransomware, unless you have a proper backup at uh, somewhere, right? Uh,
Right.
we are not Supermans that we can build it immediately. The business has to run. So we need to have a tested backup running and available for us to
Right.
use.
Right. Right.
And apart from that, just to add,
Yeah. Please.
two main people you have to
Anand,
earmark. One, who will negotiate with the
please.
ransomware team, right? The
Agree.
earmarking is very, very important. And second, during these kind of attacks, you have to communicate, maybe as per your business, you may have to communicate with your customers or with your with public, right? So in that case, who will be the point of contact, right? We will discourage everyone starting to communicate with public or the customers, right? You have to earmark a proper candidate, right, who is well informed, okay, and he knows how much to reveal.
Yeah, I
Agree.
think that is
Agree.
a big a question. Maybe Divakar might have, I think he's on the mentor board and might be hearing this more. Uh, to pay or not to pay ransomware, right?
Right.
To discuss or not to discuss ransomware outside,
Right.
to reveal, not to
Absolutely,
reveal
Satya. I had a pointer there.
publicly. All these are dilemmas running in
Yeah.
CISO's mind,
Absolutely.
which is something of. But I don't think any straight answer for any of this. There is no silver bullet, Arjit, and you
Right.
rightly said that. And my in my plan, like the way you said, backup plan, I believe organization must have a playbook to manage ransomware. So it is nothing like my organization was never attacked, it will not be. But it is not that if or not, uh, what if kind of, it is no, it is going to happen. Only situation is when. So it's better to be prepared that
Right.
rather than, better to be wearing a seat belt when you are in a flight. We are in the
Exactly.
flight, for sure
Right.
it may happen. So anytime the turbulence can happen. So it's important that you do have stakeholders prepared. Who should be the spokesperson? Who should be the person investigating? Who should be our insurance company? Who should be our forensic partner? How are we going to communicate customers? All these things should be the playbook, almost similar to what we used to do in the olden times, the BCP, right? The
Correct.
tabletop exercises, etc.,
Hmm.
should be done, and consider that ransomware attack happens and then move on from there.
Absolutely
Absolutely.
agree. You had a point, Divakar. Okay.
Yes, Anand. I wanted to just share what I've learned last year. So it was a revelation to me that, as Harinderjit mentioned, most of the time, soon after the enterprise are stuck with ransomware, they have to start the negotiations. And as per famous cybercrime psychologists, 70 to 80% of the incidents, ransomware incidents that were impacted, were up for negotiation. And most of the places, they were able to come out or get
Hmm.
a decryptor with as low as a few dollars, few pennies. So
Correct.
how ransomware works is what I've learned. It's just another business syndicate. So what is the amount of input? What is the output we fetch out of it? That's how ransomware works. That's how these syndicates, the perpetrators work. And understanding their psychology and actually
Right.
negotiating with them, Again, there has to be a regulatory space that supports
Agree.
this. Most of the regulatory aspects across
Yeah.
geographies don't support. You don't pay. But end of the day, business takes the precedence here. If you are running a business that is catastrophic, that doesn't exist if you don't pay and don't recover the data, that's a business decision. The board has to work with the
Absolutely, Divakar.
CISOs
I
and
support it. That
make
is
this
what I said.
conversation.
That
That's the point I want
at
to add.
least start the negotiation. Then depends on the legality and your board decision. Should you go ahead with the ransom payment or not? That is a separate thing. But my intention of starting the negotiation is at least you will come to know by the artifacts shared by these groups in what depth they have infiltrated your own organization. Right. That could be a starting point for investigation.
Absolutely agree, and that's a very well discussion around this response part. So with this, we are done with our section one. In fact, if I see the broader part of is from a cyber security lens, an effective cybersecurity strategy integrates proactive measures, strong prevention tactics, and a robust, resilient framework. Proactive threat anticipation, coupled with a strong preventive defense, limits the likelihood of any breach, while resilience ensures that an organization can bounce back quickly from incidents. Together, these elements not only create a dynamic and adaptive digital ecosystem, but also a resilient cybersecurity posture. So, if you guess this has a link to my second category, then yes, you're right. So, our next category is proactive strategy, prevention, and resilience. So here, the first question to you, Divakar: what proactive strategy an organization follow to create their cyber defense strategy against ransomware?
Absolutely, Anand. A lot has been done by incident responders in terms of creating run books, playbooks. There is a process, procedure. There are designated people who will run the show in terms of securing an organization or an enterprise proactively. However, all that said, all the services, all the technologies, tools deployed, there are still ransomware events. So we really
Correct.
need to ponder on and understand how this happens rather than what happened, right? So it all relates to basically having the right awareness, right understanding. Now, across
Correct.
organizations, across enterprise, there is cybersecurity awareness that happens as a checklist thing every quarter or every month, sometimes half yearly, but that won't be sufficient to stay abreast in what's happening when it comes to the ransomware. So there is continuous training and awareness that is required by every team. So most of the matured organizations, while they are able to handle this very effectively, some of the small and medium organizations will not be able to effectively do this. So that's where they'll bank on very experienced and efficient MSSPs who come with a whole lot of understanding of handling these incidents, number one. And number two, human is the weakest link. No matter how much of awareness training you provide, it falls short in terms of some of the latest ransomware. If you have seen in the
Correct.
market, I think it all comes with a simple mobile device, a handheld device, or a handheld mobile device that is used for transactions, business transactions, and combined with
Agree.
OT and IoT devices these days, the vectors are ever increasing. Right.
Right.
So what could be proactive in that case is the human education and awareness. Right. So while there might be several techniques, a perpetrator could actually penetrate into an organization and throw in a bomb that could actually destroy the entire ecosystem, or possibly exfiltrate a lot of data. Before that happens, I think they need to understand what are some of the activities that are happening at a system level, right? If there are any changes, if there is any behavioral changes on the systems, that has to be one, identified by systems, proactive
Right.
systems. Two, has to be immediately taken action, whether it be in terms of patching some of the versions, variants, SSL, for example, SSH, all these, some of the indicators. So patching them immediately and providing that advisory to the organization across, I mean, so that
Hmm.
every enterprise employee is aware what to click, what not to click, is a continuous activity. So apart from systems, tools, I think a
Hmm.
lot of awareness should be brought into the
Correct.
organizations. That's number one. And two, this has to be continuous. It cannot be at a point in time because things change continuously, and Last quarter, what we have done might not be relevant anymore in terms of ransomware. That's how sophisticated and complex most of the techniques are. So it has to be continuous, and it has to be continuous
Absolutely.
advisory
Anything
to
that
the
you would like to add,
organization and
Satya?
employees.
No, I like the approach what already Divakar mentioned, right? So
Hmm.
patching and vulnerability. So I just want to add one more. Anand, you mentioned earlier about the supply chain
Right.
related thing, right? So which is quite common in cloud. So what happens
Right.
is whenever somebody is coding, they are using third-party libraries and
Right.
APIs and
Exactly.
which are not tested all the time, and
Right.
they are very much needed for fast deployment and development. But at the same time, are we doing the right, what we can say, test right code? What we are using? Are we using the libraries which are um, I mean, stable and secure rather
Correct.
than the old and vulnerable. So these are
Right.
something which are coming as a latest hit of items because they are
Correct.
not standard vulnerability patch and scanning, but these are something which because they have added certain code which has a interdependent or library, and the library itself is out of date, and that library has something.
Correct.
If you see the use case of CrowdStrike, it's the content update which actually killed the entire system. You know,
Right.
who might
Yeah.
have actually thought that a content update actually can bring down the system down? So these are all things actually convey us something about, as you rightly said, Divakar, a deep testing of whatever the tools which we are using, and then the patching, and then a standard basics which we are following. I think we should continue to do. That will help. Along with, I think we can talk a lot about the how can we educate the users on not clicking that wonderfully correctly looking phishing mail. Yeah. So back to you,
Right.
Anand. Yeah.
All right, Satya. So with that, the next question to you, Harinderjit, like, what are the different possible channels for ransomware attacks, and what are the latest technologies in the market that can be employed to defend against ransomware attacks?
Again, a very interesting question. Let us put it in parts, right? When you talk about ransomware infection, as Divakar said, the primary contact point is phishing emails, right?
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
can consider email channels. So when you talk about securing email channels, uh, earlier, obviously, you can find the difference between a phishing email and a normal email,
Agree.
because normally people used to say like that there will be some grammatical mistake or something, right? But nowadays, after the Gen AI boom, right, the attackers are also utilizing the same for creating emails that you cannot identify by just looking at it if it is a genuine or a phishing email, correct?
Correct.
So there are multiple techniques available for securing email channels. Some are very basic and does not cost much, because now I am talking about cost perspective also, because here we are identifying and trying to protect all kind of organization, those who have lots of money, those who have less budget. So I will divide the stuff into two parts: basic and advanced protection. When you talk about basic protections, we can implement some standards like SPF, right? And DKM and DMARC. Okay, these are some of the checks that can be done nowadays for email channels,
Hmm.
and it's not that budget intensive. It's very
Correct.
basic. Okay, but this will stop 80% of your malicious emails getting into your system due to these checks, right? So you have to
Correct.
implement SPF, DKIM, DMARC, and normally most of the companies have a AV element, right, antivirus element to
Correct.
scan your emails. So these come under basic a way of protecting the email channel. The advanced softwares that has come into market is sandboxing, right? So
Hmm.
most of the emails are not malicious by nature unless they have a malicious attachment with it. So any attachment that your organization is reaching via the email, that there are softwares available in the market which have a sandboxing technology. So that particular attachments will be opened in a sandbox environment automatically by the systems,
Mm.
and depending on the system calls and the behavior, it can be identified if it is a malicious or not malicious, right?
Correct.
The
Correct.
second thing is the add-ons, right? We have to have a control over the add-ons that any user can install in your system, right?
Mm.
So the organization has to take a call on that and disable the add-ons unless it is very much needed and certified by the organization's IT department. The third one is that there is something known as content disarm and reconstruction softwares, right? What they do basically, if you receive a particular PDF file, right? Now PDF has a habit, means you can easily embed a malicious script
Correct.
or a dropper into a PDF, right? And similar software. So what these softwares do is they are inline softwares. So once you receive a attachment in your email, like such, that particular PDF will open again in a sandboxed environment, and then uh, the system will take the graphical image of that particular document and then send the end user the graphical image only. Got my
Correct.
point? The
Yeah.
original attachment is no more sent to the end user, but the
Correct.
graphical image of that original attachment will be sent. So these are very sophisticated softwares, CDR, known as CDR, content disarm and reconstruction. And then we also have URL sandboxing features, wherein if a URL is embedded in a particular email, that URL will again be opened in a sandbox environment, and depending on the behavior of that URL, it will be categorized. And if it is not malicious, it will send to the customer. It is malicious, it may be removed and sent to the customer, or the whole email can be blocked as well. So this is how we protect the email channel. Then also there is a web channel, right? Most of the time if you're surfing, there may be occasions when you there's a dropper in that particular website which affects your system. That can be a point as well. So basic tools for that is, anyways, any organization has to have a view on the usage of the web, right? So the basic step is implementing a web proxy. Okay,
Mm.
so web proxy gives you many features such as, let's say, control who will be accessing the website, what type of access websites are accessible through your web proxy. That control you already get it, and then also you can integrate the sandbox element, right, in your web proxy. Let it be URL sandboxing or a file sandboxing element. You can also integrate CDR with your web. These are advanced ones, right?
Yep.
And then the third very important technology, advanced technology that we have is RBI, remote
Yep.
browser isolations. Right
Isolation.
nowadays, if the particular website is not rated as a good website, it will be opened in a runtime environment somewhere
Correct.
else. Let's say in a cloud environment wherein it is not touching your system, but you will get, let's say, a video type of stuff, right? Remote video type of stuff that you see in your browser, right?
Correct.
So your browser will not get affected. Even if get affected, that temporary environment gets affected, which get deleted after the session. So that is a very important technology to call out for. Okay. And third, I think is most important is removable devices. You have
Correct.
to have a control over your removable devices. So you should have a particular policy to disable those in a environment unless it is too much required. You should have technologies to send you monitoring tools that send you alerts if anybody is inserting a pen drive. Okay,
Correct.
so that should be a stuff that should be looked into. I can
Definitely
go
great
on with that,
insights.
but limitation of time is there, right?
No,
We'll take
So
a
definitely.
separate complete session on this
yeah,
episode. I
yeah,
like
yeah,
the way you are going, and the lot of technologies what you mentioned deserve one separate episode by itself,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
absolutely,
definitely. And in fact,
absolutely.
I feel, the insights are pretty much, aligned to the organization one. And I
Yeah.
believe there is a very nice scope of bringing in these insights for an individual. Because I completely believe that if you are thinking the ransomware attacks from an individual perspective, there are some tools and techniques definitely individual cannot be able to buy, but they definitely, if there is some proactive strategies that an individual should keep in order to safeguard their personal laptops or the personal devices where they're utilizing all these things, I believe this is a good scope, Satya. Probably we should think of it as well.
Yes,
Absolutely,
we should think of
absolutely.
it. And I
The
think we
market is very interesting. You find lots of small uh, tools, right? Sophisticated
Right.
tools, which
Correct.
combined as a onion, right? As a defense in depth will safeguard
Right.
your
agree,
organization.
Right.
agree.
Right.
Defense
Right.
in
Agree.
depth for ransomware. Let's call that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Agree.
I like
Agree.
that. That those are very valuable, Haranjit. But as usual, I have something to tell in the opposite direction, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
So,
yeah,
in the opposite direction, see, imagine now season of sale is coming, Diwali is coming. So there are always mails coming related to Diwali sale. It is not an anomaly, this is common,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So actually what happens is, as they say, the best way to conceal yourself is stay in the public, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that is what happens with these cases. During the appraisal time, you get the mail from HR. You think that is right? That is genuine.
Right. Right.
Absolutely, because that's the time of your that period is like that. Same way, there is another section on the season of sales. That's another thing. And third is, there is a beautiful section completely called how to fool CEOs to actually click on the mails. Imagine the CEO is clicking that button and then making you access to their laptop and where you
Right.
can do valuable transaction. How to do
Right.
that? It's not easy, as I think Harinjit, you have very well mentioned various technologies. I'm speaking the
Right.
human aspect. Um, due respect to all the technologies. I'm speaking about the
Absolutely,
personalities and social engineering aspect. So, what happens when you already know the daily habits of the CEO, what he does, what he eats, where he goes, whom he talks to? This is something outside what you are actually connecting from the tech. Something very easily hackable,
Correct.
right? And then combine the technology, then you can hack uh, into that system. So the reason why I'm bringing this aspect is, as we earlier mentioned in the previous section, Harinjit, I think we still need to have the technical solutions in there to protect and defend. The reason why I'm bringing it is human happens to be the weakest link. And then
absolutely,
the example what I'm mentioning here in this case is like, let's say some mail comes into the CEO saying, you know what, the school, your son's school report came in, and it is coming from the actual school, and then he know that the son went for exam, right? He
Hmm.
like to know what the score is. You are like, you have that enthusiasm. You don't have that, a lot of things going on because you are mentally connected to with that.
Right.
So these are some things which can be hacked in. As we rightly said in the earlier, it's a mafia, right? They come with this all type of connection and combination, a combination of social engineering, how to send the mail, how to cascade the mail, how do they click it, how to make them click, and then after they click, how long I can sustain there before I actually attack. So these are all techniques which are actually like a long very long strategy, so that they take a big chunk of the amount rather than just go and hit one person and then take maybe a ring,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So yeah,
Agree.
but this is something which is coming. I agree with you, with Anand, that we should have a separate session on the technologies, both.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. No, that was a great insight, Harinder. And moving ahead, so the next question is for you, Divakar. Like, what are the typical indicators of compromise, and what tech approach will help you to proactively detect and mitigate ransomware situations?
Thanks a lot for that question, Anand. I think this is very close to my heart. Having worked with operation centers, cyber defense centers, and fusion centers, I think largely I would relate with collecting a lot of indicators of compromise from threat intel providers. I think threat intel communities has evolved over the last 1 decade. Earlier, when something happens like this, there was hardly any information that was
Correct.
readily available that could be used to proactively block. For example, an organization had been impacted but other organizations were looking for support. How do we know what exactly happened at this organization?
Agree.
What went in? Literally, we had to wait for days and official notice, but that's not the case. Thanks to a lot of policy creators who brought the certains, Isaacs of the world. I think these days a lot of collaboration happens between the businesses and the policymakers and the bureaucracy, where a lot of information in terms of IOCs had been quick
Right.
to share across the geographies. There are no boundaries. Having worked with some of the BFSI and matured organizations, I've seen this, that we have been the first responders of some incidents, and we were actively contributing. We have closely worked with some of the intelligence agencies, whether it be FBI, CIA, and other inland agencies. We were able to quickly collaborate and provide these indicators. And that's the primary proactive mechanism
Hmm.
in identifying what IOCs. For example, there is a widespread ransomware that is happening, that is occurring in the wild. I think an organization has to look at what is the latest threat intel that they could consume, what is relatable to their organization, and possibly bringing in those IOCs, deploying them wherever they have relevant systems could be a very good proactive measure. And number two, I think no matter how much of these IOCs are provided, you still, like Satya
Right.
mentioned, there is a fair chance of your CEO or a CFO falling to the carefully
Right.
crafted, well crafted, AI leveraged phishing email that looks like legitimate, domain is legitimate, everything seems to be fine.
Correct.
And
Correct.
there is still a chance you might lose keys to your kingdom if you are not being careful. And sometimes it's not easy for a normal person to identify if it is a legitimate email or illegitimate email. I think I could relate to one situation where I closely observed this many years ago.
Right.
I'm sure most of the audience and all of us remember the WannaCry, the Petya
Yeah,
and not Petya. The primary indicator was a tax filing email. So across various
Right.
geographies, we have seen this. It hit everybody's mailbox. Widely, millions of mailboxes received this email. It was tax season back in April 2017, and everyone received this tax email. Looks like it has been sent from the legitimate sources. However, deep down, if you double click on it and observe what is happening in a
Right.
sandbox environment, we could see a whole lot of devastation in the making. Right. So that kind of emails is something you cannot possibly identify, and you cannot immediately share what is coming out of it unless you have the right tools like Sandbox and something that could identify or point towards,
Hmm.
hey, this is something that shouldn't be used, that shouldn't be occurring, that shouldn't be happening. So thanks to a lot of threat intel communities, collaborators, operators, organizations that have come forward and openly sharing what is that they have observed, what can be useful, and quickly dissipating it across the ecosystem for everyone to use those IOCs is something I have observed, Anand. That has evolved a
Absolutely
lot and that
insightful,
will
Divakar. Thanks
continuously
for
has to
that.
evolve.
Yes, I think I want to add on to that FSI SAC and
Hmm.
which is finance sectors, information security, sharing, and similarly health sector, healthcare, e-commerce. Every sector has it, and governments are actually encouraging. By the way, not encouraging,
Right.
actually enforcing. If you
Enforcing.
see the
Correct.
latest act, I think it's a part of the DPDB, I guess. If you have been attacked, or you should actually notify within certain number of hours to government, right? So which actually mandates the organization to report since you are doing
Right.
business in India. So even though your organization is a US or European organization, but you are running operations in India, then you have to notify to government that I have been breached and this happened and I am working on this. This is a part of their legal, what you can say, cybersecurity acts, right? So these are some things which are being enforced in various countries, not just India alone, which makes it makes this incident what you can say, whenever the incident is happening, people don't share easily, right? So this is actually to give that push needed to the organizations to start sharing across
Right.
various forums, right? So now I recently joined one of these finance forum where actually five of the most popular global banks came in. Can't give the names. They come and speak about the attacks happening in their bank,
Okay.
and I am also representing a bank, but I can't speak. I was like wondering, oh, is it like this? And they're readily sharing, this is what is happening in my bank. And other guy says, yeah, man, it's happening in my organization too. So this is something I think was missing in the previous generations. Now the latest generation CISOs are very dynamic and actually kind of enforcers rather than the stamp people, if I have to say. So they are kind enough to share this information, make them understand, okay, these are the type of things happening, these are the type of technologies I'm using, these are the problems I'm facing with the current technologies what I'm using, and these are the loopholes I'm finding in the system. And when they start sharing something like this, I believe there is a hope for this overall ecosystem. Since, as I said earlier, there are a lot of friends needed to kill Voldemort, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Agree, agree. Mhm, mhm.
Absolutely. And I have to add, Anand, by the way, most of the threat intel,
Agree,
very efficient threat intel, is sometimes free,
agree.
thanks to relentless contribution of various communities
Right.
across the globe. Most of this could be subscribed to the threat feeds. It
Mm,
comes in a API, form of API, and you can integrate with your systems, enrich, and possibly use what is relatable to the organizations. Any organization can do that. All you need is possibly having one
right,
dedicated employee or analyst who understands what is
right.
relatable and applying those to identify the right tactics, techniques, and procedures in terms of what is the latest ransomware and what are the TTPs used, IOCs used,
Absolutely agree.
deploying them to
Absolutely.
identify
Absolutely, yeah.
within your network goes a long way.
All right. So moving ahead from this, we are having the last question in our next section to Harinderjit. So, how an impactful business design their resilience program against ransomware through technical solutions?
Yeah, very good one. Okay. So yeah, as I said, and the question itself identifies, right, that you should have a design resilience infrastructure for your business, right? And
Right.
it cannot be an afterthought, right? Once you
Hmm.
have been attacked, so it has to be a proactive step. So zero trust is one of the key word in protecting your infra, right? In
Right.
the sense, you should have micro segmentation of your networks, and authentication mechanisms should be implemented not based on the user but in every step, right, to protect your infra. So zero trust networks is one of the key element of designing a resilience infrastructure for your business.
Hmm.
Apart from that, deploying correct tools. Okay, not only deploying. Let's say I have seen organizations wherein they have deployed NGFW, right, next generation firewalls, in the default state. They have not tuned it to suit their needs, right? So tools is one part. You have different kind of security tools for networks. Let's say NGFW, there are SIEM tools. Then you have IDS, IPS, UTM devices you must implement to safeguard your perimeters. But
Right.
again, since nowadays cloud is an element, and we cannot just secure the perimeters, right? Because now the networks are perimeterless, right? You have different kind of shadow its also coming into picture. So each channel needs to be secured, and by secured I don't mean to just implement a device is a fine, but how do you fine tune it so that it gives you less false positives, okay, but actually does not overlook the false negatives, right? Because
Right.
false negative is what is more deadly, right? So you have to fine tune it as per your organization and then implement this security device. And backups play a very important part in resilience, because if you don't identify your critical business elements and back the data properly with minimum time between the backups, then obviously you will lose the data even though you have a backup, right? So
Agree.
depending on your requirement, if you are a financial institute, then how much backup is required, how much backup can be avoided, and since you are taking backup, what will be the legal means as per your legal and business requirement, after how much days that old backup should be deleted, and keep on this process, right? The data protection comes into picture as well. So you have to take care of that. and that will contribute to your resilience also, right? Proper
Mhm.
backup, then proper implementation of security tools, and obviously user awareness, right, as the
Mhm.
human element is also there. So all this will contribute to the impactful resilience part of the business. So we need to look into it. And also, one step I missed on my earlier question is
Mhm.
shared drives, right? Normally
Right.
people implement shared drives and everything. We have to do it away nowadays, because
Right.
we have solutions where you store data using HTTPS protocol, right, which is an encrypted protocol, using proper authentication, right? So those kind of things will help you to share data between individuals also in your organization, because most of the time what happens is, due to the business requirement, we make exceptions and lapses, right, in our secure infra, and that is a trigger point for the hackers to intrude, right?
Right.
So less and less exceptions should be given. The exceptions, if you give, there should be a way of tracking that exceptions, so that when it is not required, you should remove that exception, right? That part we miss. Normally we create exceptions, but we then don't revisit to check if that exception is needed now or not, and removing that exception, right?
Agree. Agree.
So these points will surely help in building a resilient system.
Absolutely insightful, Harinderjit. So I believe with this, we are done with the both the sections of our questions, and I believe my our viewers or the audience who is going to listen to this, they are definitely going to get a lot for their organizations and for them individually, and they can definitely create a proactive strategy not only for their organization but can extract some of the pieces for their individual systems and devices which they are actually using in their day-to-day life. So with this, I pass on the baton to you, Satya, for the rapid fire round.
Yeah, I think did a lot of technical talk, right? Let's free up a little and speak about ourselves and see what comes through, right? Make it fun, guys. Don't make it too tight with the answers what we are making.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so let me start with the beginning. And Divakar, you have 5 questions and only get like 20 seconds each, maybe. Yeah. So where did you start your cyber career with? What role?
Uh, I started my cyber career as an analyst, Satya,
Okay.
at one of the
So, what's your
organizations. It
favorite
was an MSSP.
cyber tech tool you worked on?
I think SIM is close to my heart, having worked with multiple operation centers, worked on various
Yeah, that's
SIMs
your
and a
magic
lot
wand,
of
huh? Okay, we
proactive
understand.
cyber controls.
Okay. So, what's your favorite industry where you spend most time?
That should be BFSI. I think 13, 14 years protecting a lot of security programs, I mean,
Mafia also
implementing a
likes
lot
it.
of security
Don't worry.
programs at banks, large, small, medium.
And what about the team? How big it was your team, and how did you manage this people aspect?
I think I've become a people guy. Soon I realized it requires a whole lot of collaboration in operation centers. So all the way starting and flipping from 0 to 1,
Makes
most
sense.
of the places to building
I know
a 70
social
member team is
engineering
what
can
I've done.
happen anytime, with such a large group. We need to close with a technical question as well. So I have one technical question for you. Can you give me a name of a mainly ransomware event where
Sure.
you faced?
I think
I
I
understand.
can define my entire career before WannaCry and after WannaCry. So it was mostly reactive prior to that, but after what happened with WannaCry, I think multiple variants. I've seen a total surgence of ransomware. So that's the biggest. That's where I closely worked days in on bridge calls, possibly sending advisories, working with engineering teams, deploying solutions, deploying anti-ransomware. A lot of action happened during WannaCry, and the
Thank you.
biggest lessons that
I
stays with me
understand.
throughout
I
my
do understand.
remembrance,
We
Satya.
share
WannaCry
same
is there.
pain, guys. Thank you. With that, thank you, Devakar, giving you your personal notes about yourself. Guys, while you are on this session, you are inspiring many young minds out there. They want to follow you or become a person like you, one Devakar or one Arinjit, Anand or Satya, whatever. So they are looking forward for leaders like you. So your journey helps them. Thank you. Coming to Harinderjit, let me start with you, right? So, where did you start your cybersecurity journey?
Yeah, Satya, basically, I have over 20 plus years of experience in this domain. I start very small role. I started with hardwares, right? Repairing hardwares, then went into networking, implementing security network architectures, then implementing security design servers, right? Then I came into the offensive part of it, right? Offensive and defensive playgrounds for cybersecurity. I have a vast experience in VAPT, okay, vulnerability management, penetration testing, audits, okay, so and creating policies as well, help in creating policies, and also I love mentoring professionals, and I have done it in the past in my previous organizations as well. So yeah, so that's me. I am very much interested and a continuous learner wherever I get a chance.
Okay. For following questions, please be brief. These are supposed to be rapid fire.
Absolutely.
Okay. So next one, you spoke a lot of technologies and techniques, right? What kind of attacks you might have actively investigated, if you might name one or two?
See, normally the attacks that I have investigated are APT attacks, right? Advanced persistent threats, including file doppers and CNCs, identifying the CNC servers, implementing a keychain that did. And
Yeah,
most of
yes.
the APTs are unknown, right? They
Not
don't
easy.
have a name. Yeah,
That's why
Not
it's called
easy, correct.
APT, Advanced
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Threat, right? So
Persistent
obviously.
threat. Yeah.
Um, what do you think is the uh, best force multiplier to avoid ransomware attacks?
Yeah, investigating in the organization risk culture, right?
Okay.
User awareness, that is the
Yes.
key, right? No matter how much technology you implement, if the user clicks on a mail which is not supposed to be clicked, your security has gone for a toss.
Cyber security culture is the key. I agree.
Absolutely.
What is, in your opinion, the most common cause due to which organization face attacks successfully?
Procrastination, right?
Absolutely
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
And
So
actually, also, if I need to add, right, along with the procrastination, not rightly using the tools, as you rightly said earlier in your other
Right.
summary.
absolutely. Even the WannaCry attack, right? You had the patch readily available. You did not
Correct.
implement it.
Yes,
Correct.
absolutely. Absolutely. Human errors. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree. The last one. What should be the best mind frame for cybersecurity professional towards safeguarding an organization? This is the
You,
message, I guess, for
yeah. So
the
the
cyber
the
warriors.
yeah, the mind frame should be you have already been breached.
Yes.
Just look for the artifacts to find out how much and when you have breached, where you have been breached.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree with that. Wonderful. So with that, our the rapid fire round is finished. So we come to the conclusion now. So if you have something to share with the audience, just in 30 seconds, just give your conclusion remarks, each of you, so that we complete this episode. Shall I start with Divakar?
Sure, Satya. I think cybersecurity is all about continuous learning. It's always looking for what's next. You're never content with what you have in hand because that's not how the adversaries think. They look for sophistication and
Yeah,
complexity and something new in everything. They might not use the same vectors. They might not use the same techniques. So always be on the lookout for what's emerging and how you can possibly not leave anything unturned within your organization or systems to make
wonderful.
sure you are
Great
resilient
message.
and not fall
Harinderji?
prey to the ransomware.
Yeah, so we live in an interlinked world, right? So If something bad is happening or a malicious attack has happened on the other organization, that doesn't mean that you are safe with it. So you have to be continuously alert and put the right people in the right place, right? And give them sufficient power to help you out.
Excellent, Haranjit. Anand, you also want to add something?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I can see the advancements that is happening in this particular space, and I could, simply say this particular statement to the youngsters who are trying to make their career in cyber, that you do have a lot of opportunity to revolutionize this entire domain, because quantum is coming. So still I believe that once the quantum is there, you still have a lot of scope to delve into the areas of encryption, decryption, bringing in a robust framework of authentication, as well as bringing a lot of things in almost all the spaces in cybersecurity. So embrace this entire domain, and be prepared to discover new things, as well as bringing revolution in this area.